Today, we're talking to Mariko O'Neill, and thank you, Mariko, for taking the time to speak with us in her incredible mind.
Lovely to be here. Thanks, Kate.
Sure. So, Mariko, can you tell me a little bit about what you do at PA Consulting?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a business transformation consultant working within PA's health and life sciences practice. So what that means is I work mainly with clients in the pharmaceutical and biotech spaces to really help them think through what is it they're trying to achieve. So what's their vision and strategy? What might they need to do to achieve that? So really thinking through systems, processes, people change, and then also kind of rolling up my sleeves and helping them to get that done. And what I really love about that work is just that opportunity that I have to go and work with so many different and interesting clients to really understand those things they want to do and help them to achieve it.
That's great, Mariko. Did you start out wanting to do exactly what you're doing today?
Well, so it's interesting. I've actually been doing this with the same firm for 21 years, which I think is quite unusual in this day and age. But I honestly, I left college really not knowing what it was I wanted to do. I had a history degree. I felt like I was qualified for nothing. And when I was looking at what all the options were, consulting really appealed because of the project-based nature of the work. I sort of figured that it would be a great way to try on a few different things and see what it was that I enjoyed. And by some happy coincidence, what I really enjoyed was consulting. So actually just the very nature of trying lots of different things, having all those new experiences, that constant learning from new clients and new things, new challenges. No 2 days are the same. And I think that's really what I needed.
It's funny. I was a history major as well, and I feel like that is something that makes a good consultant, because I was a consultant for years too as well. But you have to study things in history. You have to study and analyze in history. And I think that when you do that, you have to do the same thing in consulting. You're studying, you're analyzing, and you're coming up with somewhat of an opinion, if you will, of what is happening and how we need to get to the next step. So it's an interesting dynamic. I think that having a history degree would bring you to consulting. So kudos to you. So when you think about your journey in general, what do you think some of the things are that you really felt like you needed to overcome during your journey?
Gosh, I feel like one of the big things has been self-confidence. It's been a really interesting one for me. I think if people were to meet me, they think I come across as quite extroverted and quite confident. But actually, there's that constant, and it's almost an imposter syndrome or a constant sort of doubt. And I'm not sure whether that's gender-based or cultural. I'm half Japanese. I'm not sure if that's, but there's just this sense of almost apologizing. I see a lot of women do it actually, apologizing before I make a point or give an idea. And that's been like a constant thing I've seen throughout my career, and I really have to pick myself up on is just being a bit more confident in the way I project myself and my ideas, and not making the excuses to set expectations before I make them. So I think that's definitely been one of those things I've had to overcome. I think there's also I don't think I've ever had like big challenges in my career, but I have also sort of just felt like it's not always moved at the speed I'd want it to. There's I had a former colleague of mine, a lady called Siri Chalazi. She works at the Kennedy School now. She's brilliant. She wrote this article about how often people from outsider groups, so women, or other minorities, you often feel like you're on a parallel toll road to your colleagues who are, you've got some colleagues who are on this like super highway moving really quickly, and you're on this parallel toll road, but you're having to constantly pay these tolls along the way. And some of those are tolls that you create, but there's also, things like having to prove yourself more, or taking on more of like the housework on projects and things like that. And I've sort of always had that sense that I'm on that toll road. So a big thing for me again is just having to kind of break down those tolls that I'm creating, but also challenging those ones that are maybe created by the industry I'm in or the company I work for.
Yeah, that is very, very interesting, Mariko. I love that analogy. I love that the toll roads, and it's true. I think that if you look at, I was reading a similar article in New York Magazine, and I was like, it was very interesting that they talk about kind of the expectation of women, that what we do is we do say, okay, these are the things that are truly what I need to do as a woman in this role versus what a male would do. And it's a conscious thing that we do with such as the housekeeping, organizing, all of these things that we've done, historically, in roles where we've been in a support function versus a leading function. And part of that is the leadership is the support as well. And I think that's what makes women different leaders, is that we have the leadership quality, but we do it in a very supporting and nurturing way. And I think that sometimes that comes across to us as being that we're not strong enough. And I differ when I think about it in that way. I don't think supporting and nurturing are just are something that is a sign of weakness, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's an interesting dynamic when we think back on that. But so if you, kind of look at your career and the times that you've, kind of been in the role and you're working things through as a consultant, do you feel that, the clients, when you're working with them, really see you as that person that can be that subject matter expert?
Absolutely. I think that I think it's interesting when you're a consultant, you become very used to the colleague, she calls it dancing in the moment. So you're moving from client to client. Each new experience and each new client has their own, their own culture, their own ambitions, and their own sort of quirks, right? So it's really important to get used to working in that ambiguity. And I would like to think that my clients respect me as, a subject matter expert, but I really don't think that it's necessarily about the knowledge I bring as much as it is about having those very core soft skills. So being able to listen to a client and actually hear what it is that they're interested in and responding to that. The experience and the knowledge helps you to respond. But if you've not taken that time to listen and actually really understand what's going on, kind of the knowledge is, no one wants that person who's just going to talk at them about everything they know. That's what my 5-year-old does to me.
Yeah, sometimes it's truly about listening versus having all the answers, and I completely agree with that. And it's one thing I think that people sometimes think it's a misconception, in my opinion, about consultants, is that you bring in someone that knows absolutely everything, and that's not what happens. We listen, we figure out what the problem is, we try to guide and try to make sure that we can kind of find the best solution together. But it is definitely not something where I think there's one person that walks in that knows everything about every part of the vertical that you're working on. So it's an interesting thing nowadays, especially within life sciences, because you see such you see a lot of these smaller companies now than I did, at least in the beginning of my career, that are really working towards launching new drugs with very, very limited staff to do that. It's not the same huge big pharma kind of way of launching a drug anymore. It's very, very different, and it's very it's a mountain to climb. It really is a mountain to climb.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those really fun and probably quite privileged things about the job I get to do every day is being able to come in and learn about what people do. And I may not have all the answers, but actually being able to listen, understand, and then go back and talk to some of the brilliant colleagues I work with who probably do have the answers, right? And that joining those dots is so much fun.
It's Oh, it is fun. And sometimes, one of the best conversations are with the people that, you learn so much from, like you can ask that question that you think might be, this is a silly question, but it's truly something, where they more times than often that I actually have asked the question and thought, oh, this is going to come off terribly. You know what, Kate, I never get asked that question, but that's something I really should explain to people, and I love that, because I feel like there's that moment where you can, kind of help somebody to learn something or help somebody to understand kind of what is going on. So that's for me, it's been a highlight in my career to see that kind of stuff. So if you had to go back and talk to your younger self, Mariko, what would you say?
God, I think I would encourage myself to be authentic. So I think as I started out in my career, I had this sense of the professional person I was supposed to be, which was, probably based on the role models I saw around me. But, I felt that I had to be this very suited and booted, probably quite male persona in order to, quite formal, in order to get to the higher levels, to leadership and all the rest of it. And, I think what I've learned along the way is actually it's far better that I bring me, and that, I will be more successful being me than trying to be someone else, because it's exhausting trying to be someone else. It's exhausting putting on that persona, and you're just not as productive. So I think it would be that authenticity thing. I think I spent a lot of years trying to be someone else, and I've become much more confident and comfortable over the last few years, just kind of being me. Mm-hmm. And if that works, great. And if it doesn't, then it probably doesn't work for everyone. But it's probably going to be the easiest way for me to be successful in my career.
Well, I think it works. I'll just say that. So if you had some advice for young women today, what would it be?
It would probably be to ask for help and support. So, again, if I reflect on some of my early career days, I was probably a bit afraid to ask for help. I didn't want to show weakness. I didn't want to burden others. And actually, the more time I spend as a leader and a manager, I realize what a privileged position it is to have the ability to support and to lift others in their career. It's such a gift to be able to do that, right? So I think I would encourage those that are starting out in their careers, particularly women, ask for help, ask for support. I know that my life is made so much easier by the mentorship and by the guidance and advice that I get from, the people around me. So surround yourself with those people and don't be afraid to ask.
That's a great point. I think that it's one of the things that I actually like the most is when someone asks the question, I somewhat start to understand how they are getting to where they want to be, because you can tell when they ask the question where they are in their career. And I think that's a great thing, because then when you need to add more, support to them, or when you need to back off and let them do what they need to do. I think that is great advice, is to tell them really to ask the questions. And I think that is solid. It's something we don't always, encourage. And I think you need to, given especially where they are in their career. So it's an interesting thing even when you join a new company, learning the dynamics of that company, you need to ask the questions, how does this work here? Because it's not the same at every organization. So it's interesting. So Mariko, if you had to sum up yourself in 3 words on LinkedIn, what would those 3 words be?
I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that the first word that comes to mind is mom. I guess it's authentic, or maybe a reflection on the day I've had. Probably mom, pragmatist, and human-centered.
Nice. That's great, Mariko. And I love that you added mom. That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you, Mariko, for being with us today. We enjoyed having you. And we hope that, that you will continue to ask other women, if you'd like to actually do the interview too as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Mariko.